So what's going on in Switzerland right now for you then?
Right now, so I came to Switzerland for a job contract. So I've always worked I've always had two things. People always ask me this because like on socials and shit, like I only have music social media. But I've always worked other jobs, contract jobs. So I got a contract with a United Nations Observer Organization doing marketing and communications for this big event in Abu Dhabi. So I moved to Switzerland for that about a year and just a bit over a year ago, I guess. So I came here for that. Sweet gig, great team, cool event, great money, Swiss francs compared to the Canadian dollar. Yeah,
that's great money, yeah.
Oh, dude, so good. So yeah, I'm here for now, doing a ton of music as well, obviously, but here till April. And then I think the plan right now is to come back to Canada and then kind of reintegrate there and see where we land.
Nice. I always thought, because whenever I heard, anything about you, you were on tour, you were doing music. I just figured that was like your full time.
Yeah, everyone does. And honestly, at points in time, it is. Before, I would do a lot of contracts with Parks Canada. And that's a lot of seasonal work, and there's a lot of leave allowance. So like I would take like 3 months off to go tour Europe and Japan. And then when I get back, I do a ton of Canadian dates, but I worked remotely. So I was able to travel around and do video editing and stuff on the fly. And I've had periods of time when it's been full time, but honestly, more often than not, I'm working some contract job remotely while on tour. Because like, this is the thing, like I know everybody in the gig economy, like, I know so many people that are full-time musicians that are serving at night or, until their shows and stuff. And it's funny because those, in the psychology of a music professional, it's like those jobs don't count as a job because you're still a full-time musician. But I would rather have my bills paid and no stress.
Yeah.
And invest in like better mixes, better gear, better opportunities. But that's kind of how I've always operated. But yeah, most people just know me from music. And honestly, that is how I identify.
Oh man, and it's so cool because without going like too nerdy into the business side of it, like that's the best way to be the best artist is to make sure that you're set. So because like a lot of people really love the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the starving artist kind of look, or
100%.
Like they think that that's where it's at. And it's like people see, like on mine, I have just my podcast stuff now on my socials. And so people are like, oh, you do podcasting all the time, right? I'm like, no, I run a full agency in the background and I do this for fun,
Yeah, and that's it, man. Like, honestly, I think that image, right? That image of doing it full time is like very appealing to the public eye of like the struggle and the grind and, which is honestly part of the reason why I don't like post on my music Instagram that I'm like working this bougie job for the UN, like, but it's also exposure too. Like I know a lot of musicians who like need to take that $100 3-hour bar cover gig because they need that $100. Where since I don't need that $100, my worth has gone up. Like I charge way more for a gig and a corporate gig and like exposure in that way, where my worth has gone up significantly. So I do less gigs, but for a higher like return, and only because I know that I can pay my car bill, my insurance, all the things that I have covered from a salary or like contract work, right? It's like the starving artist thing only goes so far.
And it's really romantic in theory. In like reality, it's terrible. And like I went for it for like 10 years. And I was like, oh,
no way.
Yeah. So I did it for forever. And I was like, this is, I'm an artist and I'm working my camera. Yeah. And then I was like, one day I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like I'm obviously missing one crucial part of this, right? Like, let's just understand how best to do this. And then I started going into like understanding marketing, business and all of that. Yeah. And that's when I was able to turn around and be like, oh, this is where I was going wrong. And then it became, I was always equated to two like layers. The first layer you have to go through in anything is like how to survive. Right.
Yeah.
When you've got that figured, then you can start thriving. Right. And I feel that my art got better the more I said no to opportunities, the more I was like, that's not a good fit, or,
Yeah, you start to understand the scope of what you're trying to accomplish and like where your heart is within it.
Yeah.
And then also, do you find this like, with that idea, I find, when I was, coming out of university and like just doing music and doing the grind and sleeping on the couch and, sleeping on someone's floor after the gig and like really trying to live that like road dog life, I was like my output wasn't as strong because the bounds of my time were kind of limitless.
Yeah.
Where once I was working a 7 to 3 o'clock construction job, I knew, okay, well, the thing I want to do after this job is my music. So I was really motivated to like get out of that job site, have a shower, and get after the thing that I believed in and I loved. And then as I moved through different contracts, like with marketing, communications, press, and all of that, it just fed into the business side of music, where now all of the foundation of the other things outside of music are rising alongside the music versus just being an artist who's making music, but I can't even afford the studio time.
Right. And that's the thing is like, you can develop your art so much more when you're not worried about how do I get bread on the table? How do I deal with, you know, how do I deal with the equipment costs or, you know, studio costs or whatever it be, you know? So being able to remove that stress layer just makes your art better. You know?
Oh, and I got to dodge, but I got to also toe the line.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I get that paycheck and that new shiny guitar at the shop, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
I could buy, you know, I'm sure you got that with cameras, lenses, 100%. Microphones. Like every time I'm like, don't spend it, don't spend it.
Just like, be responsible adults.
Exactly. Yeah. Pay for the new mix. Don't buy a new guitar.
Exactly.
I'm like, I literally, 99% of my music that I record is rooted around an acoustic piano or an acoustic guitar and then all the other instruments, right? I don't need a fancy new electric guitar because I know I'm going to record an acoustic.
Yeah.
I'll buy an electric guitar and I will never play it because I'm an acoustic guy, but I want it.
I love how, you know, acoustic is like the raw, right? So like if you look at even like Dave Grohl even was like really, really specific about it. He's like, all of our songs start on an acoustic guitar, right? And they start there and there. And I often find that acoustic gives a tone and just like it's like a room feel to it that you don't get with electric. Electric is power and it's energy, but there's something about acoustic and the way that it rings, like whether even going down as far as to say like nylon or like steel, right? Like on your guitar.
Yeah.
It's such a feeling you don't get with any other instrument. That's just beautiful and it's soulful and it's simple, but it's really effective at just kind of like, why did you choose that? I mean, you could have chosen any instrument. I mean, it sounds like you're musically inclined, right? So like, what made you choose acoustic?
Play a bunch. I think it was honestly that, like, I think more often than not when I was writing, like, I think when I started doing bar gigs and cover gigs as like a kid and like, you know, early university when I wasn't doing my own music, I was an electric guy because it did bring that energy and all of that. But when I started writing my own music, it was me alone in a room with an acoustic guitar. And I think, I don't know who said it, but kind of going off that idea of like the feeling of acoustic, that reverberation, like if a song alone with a voice and an acoustic guitar feels like a good song, production can only enhance it. Now, obviously there's limits to that. You can't overproduce, but that idea. So I think for me, it just felt natural because I was writing on the acoustic. So then my band gig cover thing was electric. When I would do my original music, it was acoustic. And that was kind of when the two paths diverged from doing 4-hour cover bar nights to doing a 1-hour set of my own music that was curated. And it was like all acoustic. And I haven't really switched it up since then because the acoustic just feels like like I was in LA in November, starting to record this new record with one of my good buddies and producer, Dan. And we were like making these songs and we'd have a song that was, you know, like a lot of synth basses and like these elements that I've never used before. And we were like, something's missing. And we'd throw just an acoustic in there. We're like, that's the sound.
Isn't that funny?
It's secret sauce for me, I think, is the acoustic.
I love that. Do you remember your first time playing one of your songs versus a cover on stage?
Yeah, terrifying. I mean, I used to be, I shouldn't swear. I used to be terrified. We're okay. Yeah. This isn't network TV?
No, it's not network. You're good.
I was terrified of playing live for the longest time, even covers that I would like, as soon as I was done singing, I would turn my back to the crowd and face the band because I was really scared of doing that. So then when I transitioned into I was getting more comfortable. When I was doing my own original music, I had that initial fear of like, it's just me now. There's no band to turn around to, you know, so you have to kind of own it. And a cover to me at the time felt like intrinsically powerful because it was a song that was tested. People knew it. There was value, like preconceived value, where with an original song, you almost have to like prove value or win value by showcasing to the crowd that what you're doing has merit. And I think especially when I was first doing it, like I didn't really understand how like manage an audience. I didn't understand ebbs and flows of a set. So like, I don't think I was doing it effectively, which then made it even more nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And when it's your own creation, there's such a level of fear that comes into it that it's really, it's terror. Like you said, it's terrifying. Like I know.
So vulnerable.
Yeah. And like, that's the one thing that Brady's pushing me through. He's my producer, and he is pushing me through these layers of discomfort. And, because before, when I was doing like podcasting before, it was always based on business. And it's always based on what I know. So it's always like, hey, let's talk about business and marketing and all that. And which is great because I had like these buffers between me and the audience. And now it's just like, no, it's just going to be you and the audience now. Yeah. No buffers.
Oh, how does that feel though? Like, how do you work through that with Brady?
Oh man. So, I mean, he's been pushing me through it and like, dragging me through it in like many cases. And it's just a case of constantly, it's just a constant poke, like, and I think, now I'm at the point where I can push myself personally and do it, where I find, like, did you have that when you were getting started where you needed someone to push you, or were you just like self-motivated and self-pushing through it? Because
I was self-motivated. That was my biggest, I wanted to be in a band so bad, but no one was ever motivated enough to do it with me. So that's why I went solo. Cause like I just wanted to get after it, which is all good and bad,
Yeah. So how do you find the bands then? Cause you work with different bands for the time, right?
Yeah. So this is like, again, pro and con of being the solo artist who kind of holds all the cards and decision making power is like, I pay all my guys per show. So, when the beginning I was at university, so it was university buds who were incredibly talented. But then as they got full-time careers after they graduated, I had to move up to paying real full-time musicians who cost exponentially more than university students who just want to be paid for like, $50 in the beer for the night. So I would move through it, and then I was fortunate to meet some people from my hometown. One of my favorite bands of all time called the Elwins, kind of like a Canadian indie, like legendary act. And they're from my hometown, so I started asking them a bunch of questions. We're all homies, so then they started playing in my backing band. So it's all a matter of how much I'm being paid by a promoter, and can I afford these guys, or these guys?
I love that. It's like any kind of creative team, right? Like if you want to level up the creative, often you're bringing in better team members, and those team members know what they're doing. They're more exacting, and they're more like, this is the way it should be done to make it good, and they bring that level of experience that you just don't get from, the early, starter. And like, you can have that scrappy, exciting moments, but it's only when you start to get rolling, like you said, and you're out there and you want to be consistent and show up in a certain way, that's when you need to have those people.
Yeah, you want to be tight, right? And I think there is that element, especially like the kind of indie college trajectory of a band. It's like you're meant to be kind of grungy and pop punk in the sense of like, you don't need to be tight and perfect, and you can mess up, and it's fun. But at a level where it's like, I'm trying to charge like $10,000 for a corporate gig. If I want that, I need to showcase that I'm worth that. And the way that I do that is like, having a band that is like a professional touring band that is exactly the same like level of quality every single night on stage, not depending on how they feel or did they practice, right? So it's like, it's tough to get that without the caliber of people, but it's also that fee is because I'm paying a squad of people that are worth that, right? And it's like, I mean, you probably get that with productions and clients, right? It's like, if obviously there's levels of it where like, like our good friend Cam Barry, like he's helped me out for free so many times. Like he's one of my best friends in the world, and he's always like, whatever you need, man, like we're best friends. Like I'll help you film some stuff, I'll do whatever, which is great. But you can only call in those favors so many times, right? It's like a good client for you comes in and they have $1,000 to spend. You can work with that, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some goodwill that can get banked away, right? And like whether it be friends or good clients, and it's over time, you want to have that consistency, like you said. And I find for me, when we started saying this is the minimum level of engagement that we want to deal with, that gives you that quality without guessing, right? Because then you're not sitting there going like, well, maybe we pull in this videographer or we pull in this light guy. And, and now you can just be like, these are the guys that can get the job done. This is what they cost. Yes, they're more expensive than what you're expecting. no, we're not going to change it. You know, we're going to make sure that we get the best out of them. And that just comes down to experience and time in seat, you know?
Yeah. Like, do you find, like, I find this for myself is there's certain things that I've cut corners on in my own, you know, career that I wouldn't put them on my portfolio of work. Like I have, you know, I've had cover art that I've, you know, I would start off paying a graphic designer to do my cover art at this quality because I wanted to keep it up to this quality. And then at a certain point, I didn't have enough money. So I was like, I'll just do this one myself. And then 2 years later, I'm removing that cover art because I'm like, it dilutes the whole thing I'm trying to build. And cutting that corner actually was a much bigger diversion than just waiting an extra month and saving that extra money to get the quality.
Right.
You know?
And that's the thing too, is like, and as we, like, even as we grow this show, it's like we have to make concessions as to what we can and can't do. Like we're trying to make sure that, like if we're on location, for example, we're trying to get 3 interviews in on those days because it costs us money to do that. We have a whole team out, and it's like, you know, there are things that you want to do, right? Yeah. Versus like the assets you've been given, basically, right? You got to work with what you got. So
yeah. Oh, nothing worked. I had that recently where like I got delivered a bunch of like footage, and they're like, make a video with this footage for us in this comms contract, and I'm just like, I don't even know where to begin to put this together. But if you gave me the ability to like tell you what to film on site, like we could have made something so much more cohesive. And I think it's that plan, right? And I know like I've done a lot of run and gun style videos, and I love the video side of like music, like making music videos, doing live sessions. Like I have like film degree. It's one of my favorite things. But that run and gun style is great, and that we've had some good things at different times. But at the same time, that run and gun style can only go so far in terms of like, if you don't have a consistent idea, storyline, shot list, like you're going to end up missing some things. And I've had it before where we have a music video that can't be finished because we like don't have the things we need to finish it. And it's like, well, now that's going into the archive and will never be seen, you know?
And that's so heartbreaking too, because that project, you know, started with all the best intentions.
Yeah.
You know, like you had all these
ideas. Want it to be good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How do you find there's a big creative gap between your music and where it lands in public facing right now versus in your mind, or if you close that gap dramatically?
Only recently I feel like I've closed that gap. I think it's funny too, because like I know I have friends who on their first EP or album like landed it so, not, I don't want to say effortlessly because it takes a lot of effort, but like so gracefully, where they like really landed that plane the first attempt. They really knew where they were going. It took me a lot of experimenting between like what I thought it was and where it was being perceived. My first record, I think, did the best job of that because I wasn't trying to land the plane. I was just like trying to make a record. And I think that authenticity came through of like not trying to reach people in the way. My second record, I was really trying, and it, you know, I think it's a great record sonically, musically, but it didn't land in like the public perception of what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And only now I've just released one song in October of this kind of new era in my mind, and like not cutting corners on the holistic idea of it. So like not, you know, thinking of like, okay, well, cover art, I could just do the thing I've always done, or what feels right for this song, that if someone were to come across this, you know, on Spotify or on Apple or wherever, what is that relationship between them and this song with me removed out of the picture? Less about my ego, more about the actual music. And I think that that's stuck now because it's on track to be my best performing song ever.
Amazing.
Which is sick, but it's also like, you know, it's like you don't want to beat yourself up a little bit. You're like, why didn't I think about this 3 years ago when I put that second record out?
Well, and I think like you didn't have the experience at that point, right? Like it's like
that's it. Yeah.
Like you're sitting there and you're learning, and like I find, and this is, and maybe the trajectory is different in music, but in my career, I started off wanting to know all of the techniques, all of the technology, all of these, you know, all the methods, every single thing. And I needed to know every single, like to a scientific degree almost, right? Mm-hmm. And then about midway through my career, I hated everything. And I basically burned it all down. I'm starting over. And then I started over by just doing the things that I wanted to do. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is who, I don't care if you like it or not. I'm just going to do it. But for me, I was very selfish. It was very much like, this is who I am. This is what I want to show. And then that's where my career just went off.
Yeah.
And like, that's when
it's like
people
authentic,
started.
Right?
Yeah. And I think they were just like, that's that's a authentic Ash image at the time where he was a photographer, right? So it's like, that's what he does. That's his voice being open and true there. And then it just becomes layers of learning, and building it from there. So yeah.
It's funny. Do you find that like when you adjusted that though, like that mental shift, like that was a big thing for me this year. Like I said, coming to Switzerland, like I've always done the same thing where I do contracts and I go on tour and I release a record, and it was like 5 years of this kind of cyclical thing. And then that second record didn't land the way I wanted it to. And I put so much of myself into it that I was just like, what? Like I have to change something. So when this opportunity came up to move across the world and like completely reshape it and take such a step back where I could do that, like what you said of like, what do I actually want out of this thing? That was huge for me. Like, did you find that like it was a real conscious decision at the time, or did it just happen? Did it unfold that way for you?
It was more of a breakdown for me. Like I was looking at my portfolio and I hated every single image.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And like, it was actually hatred. It wasn't even like, oh, that's kind of nice. It was like, I don't like any of this. And like literally up to then you gotta, like my early career was like portraits, families, weddings, all of that. And then basically got to that point and then I was just like, well, what do I want to do? And I literally, how I started doing the new trajectories, I turned around and was like, I need to do something new. I can't do anything but photo work. That's all I'm good at. So I might as well do something that's got value. So I went and typed in, like I Googled at the time, like, who's the highest paying photographer? Like, what do they do? Okay. What kind of genre do they do? And it was like advertising. And then I looked at I said, well, what's the pathway to find that out? And it was like, oh, that pathway is like 30 years. I'm like, okay, I'm really impatient. What's the next like layer down? And they're like, oh, commercial photographer, right? Like not as fancy and flashy, but they're like the meat and potatoes of the advertising world. And I started researching that and I was like, I could really enjoy this. And, I can take these new ideas and approach it.
Right.
And that's when I get started with that. Yeah. And so
and how long's that been since that shift now?
So since that shift has been about 10 years. Yeah.
10 years. Okay. And has the road been consistent since the shift?
Yes, it's been consistently upwards. Now, there was a dip when COVID happened, which is it for everybody.
Of course,
right? Yeah. Like that was like my peak, and then I dropped off, but then I added in directing and then the creative strategy behind it. And I think like now I'm at a point where I'm really quite adult about it, where I'm like, before we pick up cameras, before we do the fun stuff, let's talk about what we actually want from this, and let's argue whether or not we're going to be able to solve your problem with photos, videos, and websites, right? Like,
that's the key though, right? I think that's like, I think that perspective, is the only thing, the only way you can get to that is through that experience of going through the ebbs and the flows of it.
Well, I think
that's interesting.
Well, because when you're writing a song, right, do you write it for a specific outcome, or do you want a certain feeling out of it? Are you like, how do you kind of like form your songs?
Yeah, well, honestly, this is something that for me this year of stepping back and reassessing has been part of that conversation. So I've always led from the perspective of I'm writing something because I feel called to write it. Like I have something I feel like I need to get off my chest, like a very therapeutic approach. Or like, I'd be out for a hike and I'd feel really good in nature and I'd be like, oh, that's got to be like the universe has opened up and a song has floated down and I need to get that. I need to grasp that song before someone else gets it, like really like I would think about it like the universe is, and like in an energetic type of way, like a little bit fluffy,
I love that.
Which is nice. And I still love that feeling, but now I think about it a little bit more of an artistic approach or practice, if that makes sense. So now I really write songs every day to flex the muscles. I, will read different books that kind of open up different things. I'll look up different rhyming schemes. Like I treat it like a practice that I can get tools for. And then now it's a mixture of, I feel that thing that I need to say, but my toolbox is much bigger to be able to say it in a way that is more accessible to other people. Yeah. But then also I've started doing a lot more co-writing where I'm not only writing for myself, I might be writing for another artist, or maybe we're writing with the idea of like, well, let's say we were writing a song for Maroon 5. What would that be like? And before I used to think that kind of felt fake, like faux pas. It's like, Well, it's not artistic because it's not for us or in service of our own artistic identity. But at the same time, it's like a bunch of creative people in a room putting their toolboxes together going like, but what if Adam Levine did it?
Yeah.
Like, what would it sound like? Could our song crafting ability get to that level?
Yeah.
You know, not yet, but
You'll get there.
That goal is kind of neat. So for me, it's been shifting and, you know, writing for the idea of scoring TV shows or movies, like thinking about it a little bit more, I guess, segmented has been a really big thing for me this last year. And I found it's brought me a lot better songs, better collaborations, and also just a little bit more of a happy approach to it. Because I'm not, if the universe doesn't gift me the best song ever, I'm not like, why have you forsaken me, universe? I'm just like, I'll do another one tomorrow. Maybe it'll be better.
I love it because as I listen to some of your music, you can hear the progression of your spirit and your soul within your songs. So
no way.
So you've got like this, at the beginning, it's this kind of, I don't want to say it's uncertain, but it's very melancholic, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like you're slowly stitching in hope right now.
Yeah. I think I have hope, like, you know, in the pursuit again, if that makes sense. I think that first record was really melancholic because my dad had passed away, and I was just like, I didn't know, I was 22, completely lost, didn't know anything about anything. I was kind of partially like, I would record a lot of it at my little home studio and then work with a producer named Ferd, and we were stitching this thing together, and it was very loose. The second record was full in a studio with Ferd as the producer, but the songs were still written in that era of cloudiness, I guess. And yeah, now it's like, I think this step back and the writing that I'm doing now is influenced by my perspective on the career, the pursuit, and the path has shifted away from why aren't I getting there the first time like some of these other people I see, and more about like, I'm going to do this to the day I die, so I might as well find a way that's sustainable. And that to me is hopeful, you know?
Yeah.
I appreciate that perspective on the music.
Yeah, no, and it's, for me, like I always like, and there's actually Brady who says this a lot, is like, just trust the process, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of young artists look at song making or art making and they want to do the thing, or they want to look like they're doing the thing.
Yeah.
And it's only when you let yourself, like, you have to give yourself up to it, right? And it's like you said, you'll be out walking and then the song be gifted to you. It's about being open enough to accept it when it arrives and then action on it, because the ideas, like, everyone has ideas, right? It's the execution of those ideas that matter the most. And I think as artists, it's our job to be a filter of which ideas to execute.
That's an interesting perspective. And also the work that goes into being at the level to execute. Like, if you're the one who's gifted that idea, can you execute? Like, have you put in the time, energy, work to get to the point where you can be the one who can see the idea? Because if you don't have the ability to grasp it, like, you probably won't even see it. And I think that's an interesting concept, like thinking of, like, you know, myself with the songwriting, yourself with the photography, is like identifying what your thing is. Because there are a lot of young people who want to be a pop star, and they don't want to put in the time and work to become a good songwriter. And that's perfectly fine because they've identified what they want. And that's where people like me can exist and go, well, I just want to write songs and feel useful with creation. So I can create a banging pop song for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, there could be collaboration in those ways, but it's that execution of knowing what you want, right? And I think that is it. Like, trust the process once you've established what lane, not even lane per se, but like, yeah, what you want out of the pursuit.
Yeah. And I think that to me is, I think that's the artist's journey for their lifetime, right? Is you stop by doing art for everybody, then you do it for yourself, then you're doing it to give back or to reconnect with the people that you started with.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like this big circle, right? And
it is a big circle. The realization of that too, every time you kind of come around the sun in that way, it's pretty impressive.
I'm just always in awe of people who are willing to be as vulnerable and as kind of open. And I feel like songs in particular, like, I have a very special connection with music because it's the art that fills the space around you.
Yeah.
Which is all encompassing, right? Like, I can't work without music. Like, I have all these, it's like, there's layers to this that need to happen, right? But like, the songs almost are witnesses to moments in time for the artist.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the crazy thing with that too is like they're a moment in time, or like a witness for me in the moment doing them, but then the discovery of that for the audience in those ways. Like one of my favorite songwriters is a guy named Dan Mangan. He's from the west coast of Canada. And I remember discovering him and being so blown away with his, I think, second or third record called Nice, Nice, Very Nice. I was so blown away with this record. I became obsessed with it. I listened to the CD in the car a million times. I found out he was playing at Massey Hall. I got tickets. I was so excited, only to find out that he was debuting a record 2 records after the one that I just discovered. So it's interesting that way too, that like the moment in time for him has passed years ago, but the moment in time for me is right then and right there. And it's just as potent for me as I'm sure it was for that moment for, don't know what his experience was, but you know, that kind of idea that I'm getting at?
Yeah. Well, because it's kind of like a shared moment, right? It's where you're like, yeah, he gets it, right? Like that moment, right? Like I think it's the artist's ability to find out which stories are worth telling and which are the most relatable that make it such a powerful medium. And like music, especially, you have the ability to affect, millions with your music, right? Yeah. And it just takes that one song where someone's like, wow. Like I remember when my mom passed away, I was having a hard time with it, right? Because like she was everything to everyone in our family. And during that time I came across John Morland, which I'm not sure if you've ever listened to his stuff, but it's pretty...
I don't think so.
It's like melancholic times 7, right? It's
I love that.
He's a Southerner. Some of the lines made me cry.
Okay.
Like, it's that
wow. See, that's powerful.
Right? And that's powerful in itself. And I listen back on his stuff now, and it doesn't hit the same because I'm not lost in grief. And like grief is, especially when you lose a loved one, it's the price of entry, right? For love, right? So if you have love, you're going to have that grief at some point. If there's no grief, then that's a problem in itself, right? But like, the grief and just the pain being echoed within songs, it just makes it feel like someone's with you going through that moment. And I think that's when you're talking about like, he's already jumped 2 albums ahead and he's somewhere else, right? And you're just like, man, like this is not the same moment in time for me though. Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, I think it's like someone sees me, right? Yeah. Even if it's not the timeline, whatever, it's like that song, the fact that he felt those things when he wrote it, whether it's about the same thing or I'm projecting, that's the beautiful thing about music is you project your own experiences onto the lyrical and melodic kind of compound of it. But whether or not he meant it the way that I feel it makes me feel like someone sees a part of me that is like beneath the surface, that, it makes me feel part of something bigger than myself almost.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I find when you're actually making something and it's like, it's something ordinary, right? Because it's something ordinary, but then you're finding an angle on it that people haven't seen. It's very much like photography and with filmmaking where it's like, there's this one angle you haven't thought about and it's just beautiful. Right. Yeah. And it could be, and like, especially as we make commercials and stuff like that, we try to get in a bit more of the artistic vibe these days. And then we'll bring it back to the commercial vibe. But like to start with, we push it to an artistic level now because we're like, you know what? This is the pure emotion. We want to draw the pure emotion of it. And then you can add in your commercialism and your messaging and all of that stuff. Right. But to start with, we want to give you the raw emotions. That's it. Right.
Well, because I feel like that's what hooks people, right? Like you can always sterilize something a bit more, but to get it kind of messy and authentic and real takes the courage to explore that avenue and maybe fall short.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a hurdle for any young artist getting into the industry today because of the ubiquity of easy tools.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So my daughter is 13 years old and she is writing her first album. And
no way. That's cool.
Letting her do her thing and she's building and she's growing it and it's beautiful to see, but I'm always sitting on like, well, like, are you writing this? Or what tools are you using to write it? Right? Like make sure that if you're writing it, you're writing it from a place of vulnerability and who you are, and don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about how it's going to land. Just get out there like that. Because like, I think it's really easy to turn around and be like, well, I could just run this through GPT. And get like a banger song,
It's terrifying. Honestly, it is terrifying because of how easy that is to do. And the tools, like, I don't know if you've heard of Suno. Have you heard of Suno?
No.
This is something that I just learned about. It's a music AI software where you can almost like input like a voice memo demo.
Okay.
And then prompt it and say like, but I want this to sound like Morgan Wallen.
Oh, wow.
And then it'll spit out like a trope version of that genre and that style of singer. And now streaming services are flooded with these like AI generated artists. And it is interesting because like in that idea of like your daughter writing an album, it's like if to me at least, it's like writing is the point of that exploration is to crack yourself open a little bit. And if you're using a tool who's going to summarize and polish and put together the best version of that, it just feels like you're not, it's not authentic in a way that I think it is. But I've also got my own blinders on because I think it's probably beautiful for a lot of people too,
I think I think there's two layers to this, right? There's an entertainment layer and then there's a connection layer. And I feel like you understand the connection layer really well, right? And the connection layer isn't always, driven to be commercially like explosive, right? When these are like, we're going to analyze all of the commercially successful things and then we're going to put those in and make it into that song, right? And like, I know my daughter came to me, she's like, oh, you got to hear this. It's like, I think it was like a Snoop Dogg song, but if it was like in the swing era.
Yeah, it's probably this Suno thing.
It probably is, yeah. And so she showed me, she's like, it's wild how they've taken something and removed the soul. And so it's my older daughter, so she's like 17 years old. And she's like, I don't know if I can continue listening to Spotify if this is what they're going to serve me up. Yeah. And so the younger generation wants mess. Because they're like, they look around and they're like, you know what? This isn't tidy. This, I want authentic. I want real. I want to hear Joe, and I want to hear, what he's gone through. I want to feel that, right? And I feel like that's the one thing that AI will never be able to replicate is that feeling.
100%.
And I think the more AI comes out, the higher it's going to push anybody who's willing to put out vulnerable, authentic content.
I completely agree. And I think the pendulum's swinging in that way. I think I see it with live concerts. Like I've really purposefully shifted my approach to live concerts, not fully, obviously, like when there's an opportunity to play a big venue in Toronto, that's a great time. But I've really purposefully, especially in places like Japan, in Europe, gone more house shows and very small intimate clubs. And that's part and parcel because my audience isn't as big in those places and those are the systems that are set up. But through that, it's like, I did this amazing house show in Frankfurt, Germany with a house concert series called Cowhide House Concerts. And the whole idea was you show up, it's a potluck dinner. You eat with the 30 people that are there. You become real friends. You talk about real stories. And then you sit down and you play an acoustic show with no speakers, no microphone. And you tell the stories and you do sing-alongs. And it feels like this like authentic, real human connection that is so far away from AI and the algorithm and what what that thing thinks you should be liking. And to me, that is powerful. And I think people with this rise of AI and technology are craving that authentic human connection that can only come from, like you say, people willing to push past that to be even more vulnerable and, not write a hit song. Because these days, a hit song is not what it used to be. And the songs that are becoming quote unquote hits are unconventional.
I think the youth too are really identifying the fact that, this is being run through so many filters. By the time it gets to me, right, that song is so curated and so nitpicked and it's devoid of any soul. It's just, this is who they are. And it's like, you see these self-produced artists still that still put out weird, interesting content, or just like, they thrive in the nuances of a rich life. And I think like that is, they're starting to separate that difference. And I think, they're being sold one thing and all they're seeing is like, that's a lot of noise, right? What I really want is I just want, like you said, like a fireside chat with like 30 people and like someone pull out the acoustic and play a song and, we can sing along or we don't, or, that's the human connection that you get. And you don't get that from sitting and, having, a robot build that, like it just, it's
And there's that. Do you think? Go ahead.
I was going to say there's just something about that imperfection that is just it's irreplaceable.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think the institution. Like, and again, I think that's part of the pendulum swing. If you look at the music industry particularly, and I'm sure this is similar in, film, television, and, maybe I'd actually love your perspective on that, is within the music industry, the old system used to be built in a way that if you didn't have one of the kind of the major labels or a major manager or these things in place to fund your music video and your music to be a $40,000 big production, you're out of the game. You're on the bench. You can't play, right? Where now, the access to technology, that craving for something raw, like TikTok, the worse quality it is, the better it performs because people don't want polished. And I almost see in my mind, and this is, correct me if you think the same, is a major Hollywood studio, there would be 4 or 5 movie stars that could have a draw to the theater, and therefore there's thousands of actors out of work and thousands of crew out of work. But now, the ceiling is lowered where Netflix, Prime, and all these places have an abundance of funding to make a ton of product that maybe the quality of product, I don't know if it's diminished, but there's thousands of more creative people putting their heads together to work on it. And that's an interesting concept to me where before I couldn't afford a big producer, but now it's just me and my buddy Dan most of the time in the room together making something that feels more special than anything, right?
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. What do you think?
I think we're seeing a new wave of smaller productions. And I think that's probably the absolute best thing that could happen to the world right now. Because right now we've been dominated by like 3 main companies, right, who have been developing out movies and, content. And it's just been getting watered down because the problem is that when you put money into it, like a lot of money, there's expectations upon that money, right? So it's got to yield this much more. When these small productions that are building something that they love, they're not doing it because they want it. Like they would love it to be commercially successful or viable.
Of course, yeah.
But that's secondary, right? Yeah, exactly. But it's like it's an itch you can't scratch, right? So it's like you have to make this content and share it with the world, right? It just feels like a disservice internally if you don't share this, right? And so it's like that force pushes beyond the commercial aspect, and you're just like, I just want to get the song out there because this means something to me, and I hope it means something to someone else.
Yeah, right? And that line is like, I know a lot of people who never get over that line of the fear of expectation, the fear of result is almost too much to get that release of like how good it feels to just put something that you thought of, worked on, sweat, bled, cried, whatever, like something that you put your stamp on and say, this is mine. I did this. This was a reflection of me, and put it out into the world, open for judgment and open for critique. People, not everyone can get there, and I think it's valid. I completely understand that because there's a ton of fear involved, but I think it's sad because that feeling that you have when you've done it is so profound to feel like you've contributed a piece of yourself into the world that will last. Yeah,
and it's like when Brady said to me, he's like, I want you to go into this podcast just you this time. Yeah. And like to me, I was like, but who am I? I'm nobody, right? Like I'm not, some big name podcaster. And he's like, nobody was a big name podcast when they started. Yeah. And he's like, but you're going to go in for the right reason is because you are genuinely curious and you genuinely want to talk to people about things that matter to them. And I'm also interested with people who actually do something, right? So this isn't, like we could talk about your day job. We can talk about your office job. Yeah. And that satisfies a certain part of you, but the part that it wouldn't matter, right? If you didn't have that day job, you'd find something else to replace it so that you 100%. Could do that, right? Like music to you is life, and it is your ability to kind of project. And we had a guest on, and she was talking about like this energy that everybody has. And when you tap into it, it's like you go from being like, I'm doing this, I'm making this thing, to it has to happen. You're kind of, it's so big of an energy. It's a constant, kind of like, this is what I want to do. And it's like, it's insatiable in so many ways, right? Like that to me is where art lives. Art doesn't live in commercial. It doesn't live in that. And the smaller units, like those small production units, they're going to make better stuff. And sure, the tools might change, right? Like, let's be honest, like eventually AI is going to be so indiscernible from reality that people will have access to that. But it still doesn't change the fact that someone with an idea needs to input it, and it needs to come from something. And I think if we're going to go down this road of a new tool that is accessing source material, I think we need a genuine conversation about attribution. Right. So,
100%.
If you're going to make a song using your kind of like your feel, your vibe, then you should be compensated for that. Right. And there's a world that everyone can exist, because if we don't do that, we're going to end up with a snake eating its own tail, where it's just going to be consuming its own content, getting worse and worse and worse. And we're seeing that absolutely. Right now. Right. So we need fresh ideas and fresh input from people who live, breathe, and just, are people. And it's messy, and it's not always perfect, and you're not always going to write a song that connects with the same people. And that's okay.
Yeah. I think that's powerful. I think it's, the music AI thing is definitely like illegally, in my opinion, I would imagine, sampling artists that have no idea that they're being trained on for this, AI. So I completely agree that that's a huge problem in like authentic creation and crediting of, where ideas come from, because that's like, intellectual property in that way. I think that too, right? Like that's where you listen to a song, like, Zach Bryan.
No,
I think that's his. No, I think it's Zach Bryan. Maybe I'm wrong, but for the sake of it, let's say Zach Bryan, this country singer, incredible songwriter, and his recordings are really rough. Like when I hear them, it sounds like not bad, but it sounds like it's not a polished studio production. And this person is absolutely massive, because A, the songs mean something, and B, people want something real. They don't want that overly polished thing. He doesn't auto-tune his voice. If he's a little off, he's a little off. And there's something about that authenticity and rawness that, it's someone saying something from, in their heart, in their soul. It's like that calling of exactly what you're talking about. It's like, that's where the art is. It's like, that's the real feeling. It's not polished and it's not painted over. It's, I don't know, it's something special. It's almost indescribable to me. It's when I'm reaching for that word, it's like, I've never felt something so strongly feel like a purpose. And I think when I hear art that's that authentic, whether it be visually amazing painters, amazing poets, songwriters, filmmakers, like when you see that thing, you can recognize it because there's an energy within it that showcases, it comes through, and AI doesn't have that thing.
No, and it's the storytellers, right? That's what it boils down to, is like being able to tell a story is ultimately the earmarker of a good artist, right? Is there a story or a song that has felt so true but felt really risky for you to release?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there has been. There's definitely been some along the way. But truthfully, I have a new song that's unreleased that I think has been the biggest example of this. I've always felt, one of my biggest things is like I thrive off of relationships and, being a good friend and a good family member and being somebody who shows up. And I think one of my biggest fears in life is not being that. It's like being a bad guy, being somebody who's like perceived as like not a good person. And I have a new song that's, probably going to come out maybe in the summer. And I think tentatively titled Bad Guy. And it's that idea is like, I really don't want to be that, but sometimes sometimes I have to be by process of elimination, that I can't please everybody and I can't do all the, so I think for me, that one is probably the closest. There's definitely been some along the way that have felt like that, love songs, breakup songs, but I think this upcoming one might be the most authentic inward look that doesn't relate to other people than myself. I
can't wait to hear it now. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'll send you a preview of it.
Please do. I'd love that. Yeah, because I know, like, for me, so it's funny you talk about music being therapy, because the podcast is very much like therapy for me at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I'll be talking and I'm really interested in getting through the layers, but often guests get through my layers too. And it just reveals so much. And there's a conversation where it's about kind of like capacity and like capabilities. And so like my parents, when I was younger, always used to say he'll land on his feet.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like he'll be fine. He'll land on his feet, which was, reassuring for someone who, felt like he could do anything, right? So the confidence was high. But the problem is that when I couldn't do anything, I felt terrible, and I didn't know how to reach out and ask for help, and I didn't know how to like get connected with the right people. And so I struggled with that for years as I sat there. Anything I couldn't do was ultimate failure, right? Like, it's like you're, worthless, you're useless. And it was kind of this getting over that and understanding it was really key. And that came from sitting down and having these conversations. I was just like, man. Yeah. And then like when they're putting together a vlog about this right now. And I'm just like, okay. Oh my God. Like, do I want to go this deep and share this? Do I want to be open?
It's scary.
Yeah. And it's like, cause then I'm like, well, what do people think about that? Right. Like how do they, but I think it's only through those like honest moments, and like, it's risky. Like there's and I think the risk is what is the main factor that makes it viable enough to send out there and be of actual value.
I completely agree with that. I think I've had experiences where I'm, like I've got a couple songs, like very grief-centric songs about my father passing that are really heavy for me as a whole. And even when I remember putting them on a record and saying like, I'm never going to play that live. That's just one for the soul. It's out there. And then I'll find myself feeling, while on tour, I'm like, oh, maybe tonight I'm feeling heavy because I'm thinking about my dad. Maybe I'll play that song tonight. And it's terrifying because it's the most vulnerable, simple songs. It's not the ones that are catchy and sing along and anthemic. It's really raw. But those are always the shows where someone comes up to me after and actually says like, hey, like my aunt died or my father died. And again, it's that spark of like the willingness to go through the fear of my own ego of, oh man, people might think I'm not as cool or my image might be whatever. It's like whatever that fear is that day. Going through that is the thing that connects with that one person. And 9 times out of 10, that one person is actually going to be the one person in the room that follows along and cares a lot about what's going on because they have that moment of connection. And it also, for them, it's a moment of overcoming fear to say like, wow, I feel seen and heard, and I want to go up and tell this person that what they said means something. And like, that is the biggest thing I've ever experienced. I think it's that exact idea of like your willingness to be a fool almost, like
Is it a constant seeking of connection for you that keeps this going for you?
I thought about that a lot because I think I've wondered about myself of, is it egotistical in the sense of, do I want to be on a stage and have people going, oh my God? And I don't want that really. Like I for me, it is the connection element. And like, I'm really, really trying to reframe all of my decisions about my career path around that thing of like how to make authentic connections in like real ways. Because to me, that one interaction means more than a 500 person sold out room where at the end of the day, it's just me sitting alone once everyone leaves packing up gear. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain isolation that comes with not focusing on community. So for me, that connection is everything. What
I think too is, especially when you're an artist, it's a very lonely road because like you're often looking at things in different angles than people are used to. And that can be in itself separating you from the crowd. And like, we talk about how, the ego can trick us into like, oh, you're doing this for this reason, you should do this, or, But I think the reality is that part of us is just trying to understand where we fit in the world. And then that connection as a result is what drives us.
Yeah. Have you found, and maybe frame this for me a bit more, because when along that road of 10 years, did it go from you, photography, into you and Brady, studio? Like now, and I'm framing this question in a way that you now have an ecosystem of community around you. And as a songwriter, as a solo songwriter, it's always me and then whomever I'm working with at the moment, whether it be a producer or the band or the tour manager or whoever. But it seems I'm trying to set systems up like you have, where you have that ecosystem. Like, how was that transition for you? And what is it like now as an artist do you still feel that isolation? Is it different?
That's probably one of the deepest questions about that I've ever heard. And so I love that. So
that was also like 6 questions.
I know, I love it though, because what you're really asking is like, as you've built your tribe, we're going to call it more than it, because it's not really a community, because a community is different. I would say you built your group of people that you're running with, right? I would say it's a very satisfying feeling And it's also a different layer. Like when we first started it, the layer was almost really, really, like the pressure was high because we had to now make something for multiple people, not just for Brady and I, right? Like Brady,
right.
I mean, I remember when Brady came to me and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about quitting my job. And I'm like, okay. What are you going to do? He's like, well, I think I got to like do work with you, do work with other people. And like, I'm going to start a production house and this is what I want to do. And, I'm scared. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's okay to be scared. It's,
Yeah, fear is important.
Fear is important. It often leads us into the right direction. We just have to overcome it. And so like, it's the price of entry. And I think you can do just fine. And so, he's now doing a little bit better than he was before. So he's happy. And he's, he doesn't look back. But I mean, like for me, seeing that was everything I needed to keep doing this, right? And then seeing the people, like it's like we said, it's like it's a lonely path when you're doing something solo, but then when you start bringing in these other people, and it's interesting because it doesn't have to be in the same sector as you, so you don't need to bring a whole group of singers with you. It could be a absolute killer like mixer, or it could be an absolute killer kind of like roadie or whatever it is. It can be different layers, and I think for me, seeing an artist succeed is my goal, or seeing an entrepreneur succeed, or someone who has a vision, right? Like I can't help anybody who doesn't have a vision because they're not there yet, right?
Yeah.
But if you have like this idea, we can figure it out together and make it work. And like, I think like seeing a group of us do that now, coming along, and like I have 2 employees now. And
wild,
dude, it's like, it should be stressful as hell, but it makes me really happy and it helps me go to work and be focused. And I just love the ability to help people who have their own things, right? And their paths are not quite defined for them yet, and they'll figure out where they want to go. But overall, I just love seeing them kind of roll around, get back into the art of it and just, and see it,
Something special about that,
right?
Helping, like, not even guide people, but like work with people.
Yeah.
Like you've gathered all these skills and experiences that you can help facilitate other people's dreams.
Yeah.
That's powerful,
dude. It's fun. It's really good fun. And just sharing it with people is even more fun. So I think like that's the honest truth, is like growing your tribe like that is killer.
Yeah. I think that's it too, right? It's like, it's desire to not only grow it, help people in those ways, but it's like such an authentic, like, for example, I have one of my good friends, his name's Graham Shaw. He goes by the artist name Uncle G. And he's somebody who years ago we met doing contract for Parks Canada. And we met at some event, and I was doing music and I was on a contract, and I told him, like, man, like, because he told me he wrote songs. I was like, well, if you ever want to like work on them together, like, you need a producer. I'm like, I've never produced anything, but I would gladly try. And nothing came of it. Fast forward like 5 years, and I produced his first album. And again, super learning curve for me, but it was like, for that, it's like he had an idea of what he wanted to do, and he was determined and willing to do it. So for me to like step in as like a little cog in that machine felt really rewarding, to see him like do this thing that he's always wanted to do. And I've been lucky that I have enough skills that I can help out a little bit. And there's something so fulfilling in like seeing people move through the world like that,
Yeah, it's kind of like, a job for the soul, right? Like, it's like, it's not necessarily putting you in a direction that you're going to be like where you want to be, but it's just soul satisfying.
Yeah. And it's like not about money. It's not about time. It's like purely about that connection of like, we spent countless days in a studio together, like trying things out and failing and growing. And it's like doing backup vocals where we're 10 feet away, plugging our nose and like trying to get, like, it's the process of discovery. And like now through that, like we were good friends, but through that process, he's like one of my best friends in the world. And it's like that, again, I think it's that idea of the tribe. It's like, I feel like those things where they're not for any reason I'm not doing output. I'm not trying to succeed. I'm not trying to better myself by getting paid to produce something. Like, I wasn't doing any of that. It was, I just wanted to help out this friend who I believed in. And it's like, now I feel like my tribe has grown by one because there was no reason other than that. And that's big, I think. You know?
I wonder why that is. I think it's something to do with seeking of truth. Right? And like in finding an honest truth in the world, because we get so many messages thrown at us.
Yeah.
So like, I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe the seeking of truth for the soul and just kind of being honest and open and authentic.
Yeah, because I think there are lanes, right? It's like you have to have the clients and the money making things and the business decisions where it's like you can't sacrifice those things for, like, I mean, there's flexibility obviously, but you can't sacrifice all the infrastructure that has built this sustainable life for that truth for the soul. But you have to find ways to like access that over in this lane, because if you don't, then this foundation kind of becomes stale and rotten almost, at least in my mind. You know, it's like if I don't have things that I'm doing for the love of that truth, everything else I'm doing kind of just feels like it's like trying to succeed in ways that feel inauthentic, where, I don't know, there's that balance, I guess. Do you find that between the corporate, you know, you have your business clients, you're doing all of this kind of high grade professional stuff, but then like, you know, like you offered to make a music video for me and you're like, we'll figure out budget. Like that was 2 years ago. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like does that make sense? Like you have the corporate side that you can't sacrifice a paycheck, but you're also willing to do those things. Like, how do you segregate that?
And in my dream world, we make content for ourselves that is so undeniable that the corporate side will happily pay a high dollar just to see that come out.
Oh, bravo. Bro, that's a good thought.
Right? So it's kind of like, that's in my dream, like, you know, perfect world. That's where I'd like it to be, is like, that's where, oh man, it would be so good. I think right now is we do a good job on the corporate side. And what we're doing is we're rekindling our hearts by doing the podcast, by doing more soulful approaches to the work that we have. And like we have a mandate in Mind Fusion, which is basically we do a director's cut first, which is we tell that authentic, soulful story first. Right. And like we said before, it's like, then you could put your commercial in there. Then you could put your layers in there and your CTA and jam all of the KPIs in there.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like that's where it really happens. But for us, like having the ability to fund the stuff that actually set us alight inside is key. And I think like a lot of people get lost in this one lane as they go commercial, right? And then they sit there and they work for years and they're like, well, I don't like this. I'm disappointed. It's like, do something for you. And in order for you to do it for you, you know, it's either going to cost you money, time, or, you know, part of your soul. And that's okay. Like you have to figure out which one you want to give away. And I think like for a lot of people, it's like, they're scared of that. And they would rather say like, well, I don't want to do something with no output. You know?
That happens a lot.
Yeah. And it's like, when's the last time, you know, you created something for the sake of creation? That's it.
You see that a lot too. Like I'm sure it's the same. It's like in music, there's a lot of like kind of clout and levels too that are really interesting in different markets. Like, so one thing I've realized is, you know, I've been in the Toronto scene for so long that it is incredibly difficult to crack into the industry per se in Toronto, in the sense of there's gatekeepers, people who work with this caliber of an artist or get paid this caliber of a paycheck will not consider less. And not to say that they're not, if they, you know, demand $5,000 for this rate, they should command that. But there's like, it's less of this is what I'm worth for those clients and I'm willing to do things for the heart. But there's like barriers of like, but you're not here on our level. But then you go to a place like Los Angeles, which is new to me. So I'm rose-colored glasses right now, but I'm going in with people who are significantly above me in the industry standard, who are getting a note from a friend saying, hey, my friend's in town. Do you want to come write with him? And they're like, of course, yeah, like, why not? Like make a new connection, meet a new friend, write a good song about something that we all feel. And there's like all the barriers kind of come down. And I feel like and I don't know if it's place or if it's just mindset of that exact idea of like, you have to be willing to do things for the heart and the outcomes, the outputs follow that. And it's like, you're saying, do something that will then get the corporate clients. And, you know, I will see your clips online or whomever's clips online, a songwriter, a production company. And I'll be like, wow, that's so good that I do want to click and ask them to work together because I'm impressed with what they're doing. And 9 times out of 10, the things that I'm impressed with and seeing are the ones that were for the heart. Not for the dollar, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, and we're struggling with this still to this day, which is like, how do we balance the commercial viability with the artistic integrity?
Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough, man. Cause like there's expectations. Like again, when you put money involved, the expectations are if I give you $1, you give me $2 back kind of thing. Right. So it's like, that's the expectation, but it's like, it's so much deeper than that. It's like, if we were to tell your story in this way, this could really align you with a whole bunch of people, but it takes more time. And they'll sit there and be like, or maybe we just like pump ad dollars into it and do this, and it's that's the tough one, right? Because it's like, on one hand, we want to be true to ourselves and true to what we make. Yeah. And on the other hand, we want to fulfill our responsibility with our clients, which is, we have a message to tell. This is the top of the funnel thing. And we need to make sure this, and we need to make sure that. Yeah. And there's all these like checklists you have to go through. So, and it's like we talked about.
It's hard, right?
Yeah. If you're gifted.
Because you got to push back a little. Like your integrity has to push back. But at the end of the day, with those certain projects, those clients, those dollars, if a decision comes down that it's like, don't care about that feedback, we need this. It's like, it is your job to execute. Yeah. But it does crush a bit of the soul, Oh,
and it's so hard. And I think this is why I love the concept of the songwriter, because you can spend 10 years writing an album, and you can write it exactly how you want it to. And, you can weigh it up, be like, is this performative or is this honest? Yeah. Like, which one is it? And if it's performative, then it can go. Or you might choose to have that one as your headliner on your album just to get people through the door, and then that's have it all honest, right? So, yeah.
And I mean, and there's time and place, right? Like, I have put out so many songs that were, honestly, everything up until now has been completely that lane of like authentic, not trying, getting production value to a commercial standard, but not doing a creation because of that. And sometimes a song takes 10 years, sometimes it takes 10 minutes. And, like, I've got a song coming out next Friday.
Okay.
It was written in like 3 hours, one of the easiest songs ever written. There's not really a big heart to it. It's just like, it's a feel-good love song. And we wrote it, parked it, and I was like, that was a cool co-write. Put that one in the vault. And it just kept coming back of like, man, that groove was that really, it feels good. And it's like the authenticity of that song, now that it's coming out, the decision that I made was less about the song's authenticity and more about the feeling of, like, the feeling it gives me is authentic, which is like, it feels good. Yeah. So like having some baseline of what that is, and it's, I was really nervous at first about it, that I felt so called to release it, because it felt different and it felt like stepping into that unknown of, I haven't done a song like this before, and what are the people going to think if they really like what I've done, like all those egotistical questions of, image and perspective and judgment. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I like the song, I'm going to put it out. The next song is going to be Bad Guy, so it's going to go completely the other way.
I think that it makes me laugh, because you seem to run into the same thing that I do, which is just, if it's quick, if it just flows, sometimes you feel guilty that it was too easy.
Yeah.
It feels 100%. Like there needs to be struggle in art to make it good.
I need to work for it. Yeah. I need to suffer for it, Yeah.
You don't ever consider the fact that you've been doing this for, 15 plus years or whatever you're doing, right? And making this, and that's what influenced every single moment in that song. Yeah. Yeah. You're just like, no, those 3 hours. Right?
Yeah, the fact that it comes out that quick is 10, 15 years of compounding interest, of the ability to sit down and hear what needs to happen. The amount of studio time that I've done means I could lay that vocal down in a couple takes. It wasn't a full night of, like making sure, like with my buddy Uncle G, his first time ever in a studio, we're like listening to a click track and I'm standing in front of him going, like making sure we're on time. And, he'll validate this. When he sees that clip, he'll comment and be like, it's amazing. True. So it's all that compounding interest, right? And it's but I run into the same wall every time, where if I suffer for something, it feels earned. Yeah. And I think that comes from like I appreciate art so much. And my favorite art, not to say I don't love like a good feel-good Bruno Mars song, but my favorite art are from writers who are like Leonard Cohen, or, I love Donovan Woods, Damian Rice, these writers who are like really digging into the depths of their soul, it feels like. And, will take, Damian Rice will take 6-7 years on a record. And when it comes out, it's not commercial. There's a 10-minute song and everyone's like, I don't get it. But I'm like, I get it. He suffered.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's so interesting how suffering is often associated with a beautiful outcoming, right? Like you got to
Yeah.
suffer in your business to make a good business. You got to suffer for your art to make it into something beautiful. Why do you think people feel the need to add such like negative emotions basically to this, or is it just misunderstood?
I think I might be in not the camp that you have to suffer, but I do believe that I really do think I believe that suffering, not in kind of fluffy ways, but like, like you mentioned, like you lost your mom, right? And I've lost my dad. That kind of suffering of grief and loss, and it forces you, whether you want to or not, it really forces you to look inward and reflect and understand things differently than you did before. And your perspective on what things mean changes. And I wouldn't be able to write the songs I write now if I didn't have those things happen. So on one hand, I really do believe that suffering can impact art. I don't think it has to, because I've written, before my dad died, I wrote a couple really feel good tunes that people love, and I think I was just rose-colored glasses, but I don't know. I do think there's something to be said about it. What do you think? Do you think it's a trope? Do you think it's needed?
So I'm a bit of a Stoic, and the Stoics, they even like famously said, like, life is suffering, right? And it sounds terrible on the surface, but then you start asking yourself, it's like, what am I suffering for? Like, why am I pushing through it? The reason that I find artists go through so much suffering is because they care so deeply about that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just care so deeply that you want to get that message out, that you're not alone, that, loss is happening in everyone's lives around the world. And this is just how I dealt with it. This is how I felt during it, and, like, hold my hand through this if you have to, right? Because this is a tough moment, but like, let's go through it together. And I think that to me is like, through anything worth doing, there's going to be suffering, because it's, it's just like chomping away a part of your being where it's just like, this is going to become who you are. This is going to be part of your spirit. This is going to be part of your soul, whatever you want to, attribute it to. I think that it has to happen to a certain extent for something to be of actual interest and, appreciation.
Oh, that's a beautiful answer. I think it's all relative too, right? Like, as you're speaking, I was thinking about it, because it's also, a 16-year-old who has their heart broken for the first time. To them, that is profound suffering.
Yep.
To us, we're like, dude, buckle up, pal. Like, like, welcome to the big leagues, like, man. Dude. It's going to be, you're going to get that a couple more times. But to that, I remember being that 16-year-old who felt devastated, and I felt changed by those moments. And I felt the same. I can almost remember the feeling I had that first heartbreak at that time and it sounds crazy, but it felt the same weight as when I lost my father at that time. I know that sounds insane. I'm not comparing those two things, but the feeling, it felt that big of a deal. And I think that's it, right? It's like, to that 16-year-old, that was the spark that started me thinking deeper about life and relationships. And when I started writing music as an outlet, it was because I was feeling things so heavily from being broken up with at 16.
Yeah. Do you think that your songs are because your physical body cannot handle all of the emotion? And
I think some of them for sure. Yeah. There's a lot of songs where they'll never see the light of day, but they were like purely, me crying, getting emotions out in a room alone, getting something said. And I think the songs that I do now more kind of publicly are polished in the sense of like, I'm really trying to make songs that have authentic story, emotion, but are more accessible to people. But there's always, for every 10 songs on a record, there's 60 songs that are left on the floor of the cutting room that, there's a lot of songs where for me, it's, I have to sit down and do something, whether it's guitar, piano, a voice note. Like, sometimes it's just sitting and playing two notes on a piano, droning. Like, it's some outlet physically that I feel like I'm doing something that it's a release, because I think I have a hard time, although I'm a chatty Cathy, as you can tell, I have a hard time expressing. I can talk about my emotions all day and I can talk about grief, but for me to actually process it, I need to be alone in a room with an instrument usually, or a book or something that's like a manifestation of those feelings.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm trying to
How about you?
I'm trying to think if there's anything in my life that's that way. And it's just, I mean, like I'm English. So like we're told to really express our emotions really well.
Yeah.
And I think like, at the pub, yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, it's like, and like, I don't know. I feel like for me, where creation is a way for me to kind of like definitely explore those. I think for me, the consumption of true stories and true emotions through songs, like I told you before, like songs are really deeply entrenched in, like I have songs that represent certain times, right? Like I can tell you that, you know, the first heartbreak, and this is going to age me a bit, was like U2's With or Without You. And played
No
that
way. I mean,
non-stop. Like it was like, you know, that just, it's almost like I wanted to kind of recycle through those emotions over and over to understand them better.
Yeah.
And then like when my mom passed away, I remember I was like scrolling and trying to fall asleep. And it was like months afterwards. And I fell across Charles Bradley's Changes live.
Oh.
Have you seen this? You've seen this?
The one in Toronto?
Where he's just like melting, right?
Yeah.
And he's singing for his mom. And I remember just bawling in bed. And Trish like woke up and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, this song just hit me." And it's like
it's for me, a crazy performance,
right? I just can't unhook that emotion with that one now, because that was so.
Yeah.
The pain that he displayed was so accurate and so close to what my pain was going through that. So I guess for me, it's amassing those, like finding those people that have gone through that and have dealt with that. And then it just makes me feel like a bit more kind of in tune with people and to be like, you know, okay, this is a normal feeling to be having. Right. Yeah. You know, so, and like, you know, it's okay to feel that.
When you listen to that song now, is the visceral reaction the same as it was?
Not as much as it was, but it's still deep gut in there.
Yeah. Okay. Right? I get you.
I probably won't draw tears anymore, but it's still, there's that pit of loss.
It's interesting though, eh?
Yeah.
Like I have a song that's like a couple songs even in you know, those kind of moments where some of them are still as potent, where if I hear it casually here, I'll be fine. But if I'm alone in a car driving with the windows down, I'll be screaming and crying. Yeah. But there's certain songs that, you know, it's not that they've lost the potency, but it's almost like the distance between myself and who I was at the time. The song is still as important, but it's like we said, that moment, right? It's like that moment for me now is a couple albums ago, you know, or whatever.
I love that, because I often look back at songs now and almost grieve the person that I was in some respects. And it's kind of, we're going like deep, like there's one song that is on my wall in my office, and it's by the Struts, and it's Could Have Been Me. And that song hit me so hard because I was at a point in my career where I'm like, maybe I should just give this up. Like this is the point where everything was going bad. I wasn't making any money. It was like, nothing was working. And I was just like, maybe this isn't right. Like maybe this is the universe's way of saying, go get a job. And I ended up getting a job and then promptly leaving that job, because during that time I was like, this is horrible. I can't spend the rest of my life. And that Could Have Been Me was, that song represented that. And I still remember like Trish listening to it going, this is you on so many levels. Right. And I'm like, And I'm like, and she's like, yeah. And so I look back at that and I grieve that moment where I was that person, where I was that naive kind of like, this is my life. This is never going to get any better. It's dark. I can't see a way out. You know, I have, you know, 2 young girls at the time, and I don't know how we're going to continue to, you know, make sure that, you know, there's all of these stresses and layers. And that song represented everything, where it's like, but go look at, you know, the guy that's worked, you know, 40 years in a job that he hated, and then says, you know, I did it for the family. It's like, you know, that could have been you. So it's like, figure this out. Well, that's going to be you. And there was like a threat, you know?
It's crazy, that before and after version, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a version of you before that moment when you decided that, like, I can't live that life of being that guy. It could be me, but it cannot be me. You're owning that. There's a pre-version and a post-version of that, which is crazy. And I think that dark analogy is really one of my favorite songs in the world. Do you know the band Hey Rosetta?
I've heard of them. I haven't actually listened to much of their stuff, I don't think.
Incredible band. I'll send you a song after, but they've got a song where the lyrics say, it's one of my favorites, one of my grief songs, but the lyrics say, "Doctor, unbandage my eyes. I feel the light and I'm ready to be out in it." And every time I hear that, I'm ready to break down because it's just so potent. But like what you just said, it struck me. It's like, it's dark. I can't see anything. It's like, yeah, just take the band, like see, it's like you decided that moment, like, I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm ready.
There's such a comfort in darkness though. Like, right. And like the reality is like, there's such a comfort in darkness where it's like, maybe this is it. Maybe I don't need to worry anymore. Maybe I can just let go.
Mm-hmm. But can you, like, I think about that all the time because I know I come into a brick wall with music all the time when something that album that I put out, I believed in it so much and I crafted it to make it. It's like, we're going to have 3 radio songs, no problem. None of them get on, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm crushed to them. I don't know what to do. And I think about that often of like, maybe it would be easier for me to like, I've already got contract jobs. Like maybe I just do that and then I don't invest my money here and I don't stress about it not being perceived. And there is something comforting about that. But at the end of the day, it almost feels like a pit in my stomach where it's like, maybe I'll reach a point in time when that pit goes away and it feels like that is the move. But every time I've confronted that darkness, it's like, I don't really want to stay here.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
what about you? Did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for me, it was like, there's comfort in the darkness because everywhere you look, it's the same.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any worse.
Yeah.
That's the lie that it tells you. Right. So you're in that pit. And then, then when you realize that the only way out of it is to climb, and the climb requires you to forgive you for allowing yourself to climb. And that's the hardest part, is like when you start climbing out and then you start seeing the light and you start seeing this, and like, whether it's a business, whether it's in art, and there's just these similarities and like these patterns that kind of repeat themselves through life, which is there's no such thing as a straight journey of like constant upwards, right? It's like, that is where storytelling lives. Storytelling lives in, let me tell you how fucked up it can be, and let me tell you how I got out of it.
Yeah. Because if you're not getting out of it, it's like, well, actually, interesting. I just saw this movie recently. It made me think really deeply about this exact kind of concept. It was called Train Dreams. Have you seen this one?
Yes, I have. Dude, it's a long slog of sadness. And I watched it when I had the flu. So
God.
And like, I texted Brady afterwards. I'm like, so I just watched Train Dreams. And he's like, are you drinking yet? I'm like, close. Like, it's just,
dude, it took me a week to recover emotionally from that movie. And that one, you could argue he doesn't really climb out of the darkness per se. I think like thematically it might, with the ending, it's beautiful with those shots, but I think generally it's kind of saying that like sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And that's also okay, but for some people, I guess. I don't know. I think
the one thing I took from it is there is such a thing as a peak, and you can overgo it.
Oh God.
And that to me, I was like, this could be the peak, right? And so I think I think Train Dreams is an homage to time and how time doesn't stop for any man.
Yeah.
And you can choose to accept time for what it is, right? And there is limited time with some people. There's some, horrendous things that happen in your life. There's some great things that happen in your life. And it's all just a flow of time. And so you can look back and appreciate and grieve and look forwards and hope, right? But it's honestly this, it's a journey that you're privy to be a part of, and there's going to be some good and there's going to be some bad, and that's what makes the good good and the bad bad.
Yeah, and I think the combination of that time kind of exemplified through nature, and I know it's Train Dreams, but it's more about the forest, almost the ecosystem of like how it rebuilds itself and it moves on whether you're there or not, and it will reclaim itself. And I think that's interesting with the idea of kind of humanity behind it. It's like, if you continue to, live the same day, eventually it will be reclaimed by time, by nature, and I think it's powerful in that way that, he kind of accepts that by the end, that that's what it is and that's okay. And the idea that there's a peak, I completely agree with you. absolutely fucking terrifying to me.
Right? Because as artists, we're all about, I'm going to be at the peak of this next thing, right? My next
it's always the next one.
The next song is going to get me here, right? My next, film will get me here. And it's like, you just like, and that's ego talking. We both are going to agree on that, right? Like, it's just like, but just the overall visceral awareness of how insignificant we are in the scale of time in that movie is humbling.
It's crazy because we are so insignificant. Dude. And then it raises all those bars, right? Of, we are talking about art in a way that I love to talk. I could literally do this all day long because it's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. But then you compare it to that idea of train dreams and it's like, but at the end of the day, we could be gone tomorrow. And what does it all mean? And that comes back to that authenticity element of like, if you're not doing something authentic and tomorrow we're gone, it's like today you really didn't do anything then, And that's scary too, like wasting because you're hoping that output or that return is going to be, that ego is craving that thing, right? And it's like your brain and your ego fighting each other. And that's, it really keeps me up at night sometimes, to be honest with you.
Dude, it does to me too. I think the understanding of the moment, like I try to ignore time and think of the moment. So like, especially, and like, this is what the podcasts are helping me with is like, just be here. Don't think about what's happening afterwards. Don't think of what's happening before. Just be here now. And, I've said it before, which is like putting your feet under your head, right? Which is like, this is who I am. This is where I am now. And I now want to experience and feel all of it, right? Like I want to have this journey through, art and through conversation of grief with you and live those moments and actually take those moments to think about it, to feel it, because it's gone. It's already gone.
And it's so hard to do though.
Yeah.
The constant practice of, I feel like, you're a very good conversationalist. So I'm tapped in right now, but I find myself in daily life struggling with that sometimes where I am overthinking about what I have to do later or will that thing work out? And I do miss out on the beauty of these types of moments or, going and sitting by the lake and just being at the lake and not worrying about, well, I got to be at this place later. And if I'm not doing this thing, I'm wasting my time. And being present is important. Do you find with the podcast, obviously now, but in general, it's a practice for you? Or do you find the podcast has helped you settle right into it?
I think the podcast has given me things to look forward to in a busy day. Right?
That's interesting.
Right? So it's like Brady and I will absolutely agree on this, is like we spend inordinate amount of time and suffering on this.
Yeah.
And we love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that we went into this going, this is going to be this commercial thing and this, right? We didn't go into it that. We went into it and we basically made this like stupid, like it's stupid, but it's basically a promise, which is we're going to do 1,000 conversations.
Whoa, that's impressive.
So like, we're just like, literally that's our goal. Just get to 1,000 conversations. So and like,
bravo.
That's it. And so like the conversations are, they're real, they're fluid, they're, I tend to lean into art because I love art, and I tend to lean into storytelling because I just love the concept of storytelling. I think like that's the magic of humans being able to share their experience, right? I think that's the only way we share our experiences in all honesty. And living in the moment in the podcast has developed into something that I really enjoy, right? And it's just like I'm ADHD, so like my brain goes far too many places too many times, right? So this makes it feel like I'm cooling down and chilling for a moment, and I love that. Like it doesn't happen often in my life, and like I think as you like in your music, it's folk, right? It's beautiful, but it also requires the listener to slow down and listen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, and like that's the one thing I noticed when I start listening to your stuff is I'm like, I need to slow down and listen here. And I can feel like I could feel myself calming, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to be by the, lakeside now, and I have a beer in my hand, and I just want to, kick off my shoes and just chill and just be there, and like that to me, it's a very special thing when you're able to elicit that kind of emotion auditorially, right? Because you're not here in my presence, you're just, through, in my case, it was through Spotify, right?
Yeah.
Right. And your perspective is the gift that you're gifting people, which I love.
That's so cool to hear. I mean, that's the dream, honestly. Like when I think of the feelings I want to give, it is being at the cottage at the lake with a beer or coffee, enjoying the view, slowing down. So that's cool that comes through. And I think that is, it's powerful. It's also interesting though, too, right? And I think that's, again, that idea of authenticity, I think is, I don't know if, I hope so. And I say this lightly because I do have hope, but I don't know if my music ever could be in a mega viral #1 song because it requires the listener to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of viral type music or music that's top 20, top 10 doesn't require the listener to do that because it's meeting the listener where they are, in the car, on the go, wherever. There's songs that are exceptions, and like I've got faith.
Yeah.
So maybe one day, but I wouldn't want to compromise that authenticity to just try to reach a metric.
Fair. And I think like, let me give you this analogy. There are good wines and there are cheap wines.
Yeah.
Right? So you just chose to be a good wine. Not everyone's going to drink a good wine. It's going to be a celebration. It's going to be a moment.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that people choose to enjoy. It's a choice, right? When I find, and I actually, weirdly enough, have a marker in time where I think that the hit song or like the, record songs became broken. And
really?
Yeah. And it was, what did the Fox say? Because they calculated everything, and then all the industry paid attention. They're like, oh, we can do that, because they took it and they did it in irony. They're like, we analyzed everything, we did all this, and this is the ironic song that we made, and it became super popular. And now
it was massive,
right? So now it's spawned a whole bunch of people who are just like, well, in order to be commercially viable and commercially popular, we need to hit this layer, and it's just checkboxes that they're forming to make it happen. And I think that in order to make good wine, you have to break all those checkboxes.
Yeah.
Right? The good wine will influence the cheap wine, but the cheap wine will never influence the good wine.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, first of all, you just unlocked a part of my memory with that song that I didn't remember existed. That's a crazy big song, but that's also interesting because they did crack the code on the pieces of the puzzle that make a quote unquote hit song. But the interesting thing, and almost it kind of contradicts what I said about my music not being able to get up there, is a lot more music now is getting up there without doing that, in the sense of, before it was formulaic in the sense of it had to have X amount of chord changes to keep the listener interesting, and it had to have melodic changes in these ways, and it had to be under 2 minutes and 45 seconds and all of these metrics. But then you see a song like I think it's called Messy by Lola, or
I know exactly the song you're talking about. Yep.
And I'm 99% sure, I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure that whole song is like 2, maybe 3 chords. The whole song, verse, chorus, the whole thing. It doesn't change.
Yep.
And I feel like there's a few other ones too. Like I think like Sailor Song by Gigi Perez, I think that might be similar. Yep. I could be off, but there's these songs that aren't flashy. They're not doing all the tropes of the industry to change and keep your attention, but they're doing something that is, again, to that person, it's authentic, and they're not trying to show off. They're just trying to tell the story in the way that serves the story and serves the song. And I think that's something that a lot of musicians talk about often. And I'm curious, maybe they do in kind of production and marketing in your worlds as well, that you got to bring the right people in for the job. Without, talking about the right people for the band for consistency. If we're building a song and we need a guitar solo, let's say, and it's a folk song, and we bring in one guitar player who is doing crazy electric guitar solo to just show that he is the man. He's the best guitar player you've ever seen. He could do all the stuff you can't do. But then we bring in somebody who does the simplest melodic, soft solo that serves the song versus serving the musician,
Yeah.
And I think that's what those types of songs like the Messy and the Sailor Song are doing, where they're not being flashy or showing off, but everything is serving the vessel of that song to deliver the message in the way that it needs to be delivered. And so I almost, kind of contradict what I said originally, but I think it's maybe shifting that way. And that probably intrinsically relates to everything we've been talking about authenticity and digestion of, non kind of force-fed media.
Yeah, and I think like there's such a thing as a good structure to a good song, to a good story. I think that the structure is what makes the constraints so that your song can be widely appreciated. Right? So that your story can be widely appreciated. And then from there, you can just add in all the flair and all the magic you want and add in your kind of magic touch that is, uniquely yours. But that's what makes like storytelling, music, art wonderful. It's like, there's, and then there's always the ones that break the mold. Like, I don't know if you've watched, oh my gosh, what's his name? I gotta blitz on who's an English rapper. He is a very interesting perspective, but he did one on like mental health and bipolarism, and it was like fascinating. I'll have to send it over to you afterwards.
Yeah, please do.
He's like, I watched it and I was just like, man, like, talk about an artist. Like, I think of an artist as someone who just doesn't care about the rules.
Yeah.
Right. And he absolutely, and it's gonna like, I'll be like at the end of the show, I'll be like, oh, this guy. Right. And it's like, his, Ren, that was his name.
Ren? Okay. So, I don't know if I've heard of Ren.
Hi Ren is the song. And it's just like, I'll send it to you. It's incredible because you sit there and you're like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
Because you're almost at the point where like you're breaking every single artistic rule right now.
Oh, like, I love that.
Yeah, so it's definitely, so I think like those can break through too. And I think that honestly, it comes down to what people are ready to hear. Because I think sometimes, and this sucks as being an artist, is sometimes your art is just not at the right place in time.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
Just the same as like one artist, his place in time for you was 2 albums ago.
Exactly.
And you're just like, this is amazing. This is my moment. But he's already 2 albums ahead of you. Right. And it may or may not be in the trajectory you want it to be. That's the hardest part, right? It's like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so true. And I remember seeing an interview with that artist where after that album that came out when I was, you're not touring the album that I'm listening to right now. You're 2 albums ahead. I think he took I want to say 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years before putting out another album. And he even speaks about it. Like, I thought it, I didn't really know what was next and who could say where we're going. And it's crazy to me that I'm like, I was seeing you at Massey Hall and you don't know where you're going?
Yeah.
How the hell am I supposed to know where I'm going? And I don't even have, at that point, I didn't even have a song. I didn't even know at that point I was pursuing music as a career.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, I think, that the moments in time, it's like everybody has those. You can be unwaveringly confident and still be completely lost.
Oh. Oh. Well, I feel seen. Yeah, that's tough, man. Holy. How do you break?
I find myself.
How do you break through that?
I don't know.
Because if everyone's looking to you for direction.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like relentlessness almost, like the amount of times that you're said no to, or you're denied, or you don't get that outcome. I think it's like resilience building almost, that like the quicker that you obviously have to assess what went wrong and, all of these things. Like, for example, I was looking into getting an O1 visa for the US because I really want to do more songwriting in LA and Nashville. And I spoke with a lawyer and they kind of said, you kind of need a little bit more going on than you have going on right now to get that visa. We're looking at what stadiums have you played? That's your guaranteed ticket. I'm like, oh. Yeah. And, for the first 5 minutes, I'm like, man, this sucks. I really thought I was getting there. I thought something was going to happen. And then I look at email. I'm like, okay, well, I got to get these things kind of going in my direction. And then it's like an immediate switch to like, okay, well, fuck that then. Next up is these things. And I'm still going to play in the US, but I'm going to get this visa, which I know I can get. And it's like, for me, it's like almost a refusal to, like, I'm acknowledging the criteria that makes me need to improve, but I'm kind of rejecting in a probably a delusional way a little bit, but I'm rejecting the one side of it and just like blinders on. And a friend of mine told me, he's like, the best advice I ever got in the music industry, which is I will swear by this, and I'm hoping it pays off one day. So then all these times I've said this on a show like this, you can clip it, But he said, after 5 years in the music industry, or I'm sure this is almost all creative industries, to be honest with you, but after 5 years, the people that you were doing it with are all going to start to quit probably because they can't handle it. And that's when you do another 5 years. And in those 5 years, the people that you're there with are probably going to start to quit and fizzle out because they can't keep up mentally with the rejection, with the disappointment, with the, all of those heavy feelings. And that's when you do another 5 years. And if you just do that enough, at some point, you will be the person who survived all of these layers, and you will have the success. And I think that is semi-delusional, because I think that can also feed into a terrible, terrible habit of, not knowing when to quote unquote give up or park or pivot. But for me, it's been I think that's why I have unwavering confidence in what I'm doing, is because from the very get-go, when I started releasing music, I got that advice, and I kind of pre-programmed my mind to be like, well, if it doesn't work, that just means I need to go longer, and I need to be in there more, and I need to do different things, and I need to adjust. And, but at the same time, I'm so lost with it all.
Man. And it's something that I don't think many people like to talk about, because if you're leading, you should know where you're going, right? And I had the joy of teaching at Loyalist, and
oh, that's cool,
dude. It was fun as all get out. I loved it, and it kind of ignited an educator. Man, I know that's going to be part of my life at some point. And
that's cool.
I remember opening with this line. I said to them, I'm like, I want to give you the best advice you're going to hear, and the advice you're going to ignore the most, which is, if you don't know where you're going, you're already there.
Oh, fuck. I mean, bravo. If I was a student, I'd be like, oh shit, I got to not skip this one.
Right. And I had tons of, we had, the classes were always full because I always wanted to know more. And and I kind of try to give them those layers, but it's guys, you're going to be walking around in circles for a bit, and that's okay. That's part of the industry. It's especially in the art-based industry, I think that there's no clear pathways, because every pathway is unique and is your own because of the nature of what we do, right? You're going to make good choices and you're going to make bad choices, right? You might even hit peaks and then valleys, and that's okay, because it's still this pathway. And I always I'm very similar to you, where I'm I hear your reality, but now I'm going to put mine in place of that reality, and I'm just going to do that because that makes me happier, and I feel safer there, and maybe that's blind to the world, and I don't care because this is what I'm doing. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, right? It's you have
to be okay with it too.
Yes.
If you're making that decision, you kind of have to be okay with, if it doesn't work out, are you okay you walk that circle 1,000 times?
Yeah, exactly.
And if the answer is yes, it's great, But if at the end of the day, the outcome or the output's going to be the thing that makes you satisfied, it's maybe you shouldn't walk that circle so much,
I find the older I get, I'm 45 this year, the older I get, the more I crave simplicity, the more I crave peace, and I crave mindfulness. Right?
Yeah.
Everything I try to do, I try to put a bit more mindfulness into it, whether it be drinking a good wine, whether it be sitting down and listening to, I listen to records. This is oh man, sit by the fire, put my slippers on, get a good glass of wine and stick a record on. Right?
Oh, dude, you're speaking my language right now.
Dude, come on over and we'll do that. And it's we'll sit there.
Seriously.
And I listen to these songs, and I noticed my record collection is not what I listen to on Spotify. And it's
interesting. Walk me through that.
Because it's one's to experience the moment and one's just to fill the moment.
Oh, that's potent.
Right? So
a record does do that, right?
It forcing you to listen to the album. How many people listen to albums these days versus mixtures, right? Radio.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I listened to an album on Spotify.
Yeah.
But I could tell I listened to an album this week on record. Right, and I sat down. It was actually John Morland, and listened to his Big Bad Love, and it was just it's just a beautiful album, right? And then like the kids come and sit down and listen by the fire. They put away their phones, and it's like, I know this sounds like super idyllic, and we all like sit there and like hang out, but it's like it just that connection you get, and it's like harkening back to the connection that you kind of drive home with your authenticity. That's what you get when you slow down and take your time and simplify. And like just we've started to simplify more often than not, and like I think like that's one thing that, you know, as an artist, I've learned that the hardest thing is the simplest thing.
So often, like overproducing or over color correcting or over lighting or, you know, over singing, all those elements, I think sometimes, the thing it needs is less. And I think those physical mediums too, right? Like a record, it detaches you from the technology of connection to the, you know, the fake world in essence, but it connects you to something present. And it's like, it does sound idyllic because it really is like, you know, it's a physical thing. You have to get up and flip it. You're listening to it the way it was meant to be listened to. So like the person who created it had an intention and you're picking up on that intention. There's something really special about that. And again, it's like the medium itself is simple. You know, it's a physical medium that has the music etched into it. And the experience is simple. It forces you to sit still and listen to this thing. And I think that's powerful, but I also think it is really hard as a creative to know when less is more.
And I think like that's the ultimate, like as you progress as a creative, like as a photographer, it was knowing which shots not to hand out to the clients. As a director, it's to know what to leave on the cutting floor, right?
Yeah.
Like it's less is more in so many ways. And it's only through years and years of suffering, years and years of, you know, struggling to figure something out that I think that we actually develop that keen scent of like, this is a good way. I need to go this way. You know? Like, and I think like that.
This is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is enough. We can do this. Yeah.
But I think that is maturity in that way, right? It's understanding that you don't need to prove something or I don't know, like for me early, it's like, I want to, you know, like my second record, like I almost wanted to, I knew there's certain songs that I had string arrangements and horn arrangements, and I had this big fucking picture in my head of what it needed to be to serve the song. And, you know, I am very proud that the outcome is exactly as I imagined it in my head. And then I'll play that song live in a room to 30 people with myself and an acoustic guitar. And it'll be much slower. It'll be much more emotional, how I wrote it in the room. And people will come up to me like, do you have a version like that on Spotify?
Yeah.
Because like, wow, that's powerful. I'm like,
you don't get that on Spotify. Yeah, you don't get that on Spotify.
No, you know, because and again, it's that balance of, you know, one for me, one for you. It's like I needed to do that for my own growth.
Yes.
To prove to myself that I could do that thing.
Yeah, I love that.
But there's that element of, you know, the song itself is sometimes good enough. It goes right back to the beginning of that acoustic thing, right? If it can be good on an acoustic guitar, maybe it doesn't need 7 horns, you know?
I love that. So what's next for you as we close this off? Like what's next for you in your art and where you want to go with your singing?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm finishing up a new record that I'm being really, really purposeful with. I'm not rushing it. My first record and my second record came out 1 year after each other, 2022, 2023. And it was very quick and it was kind of a really crunched period of time. I didn't want to do that again. So really stretching out the production to like be sure of what I'm doing. In that interim, I'm releasing some songs that I'm really proud of that are just single songs with no intention of just getting things that I'm proud of out into the world. The goal right now is to release this new record in May of 2027.
Wow.
So it'll be a big gap between the second record and the third studio album. And I don't have all the pieces in place yet, but I'm actively planning tours that focus more on like everything we talked about today of community building and like real relationships with people is my goal. So I'm actively trying to book more community centers and house shows and, you know, gathering spaces that are not traditional because I'm not a TikToker kind of person. I respect the people who have success on it because I can't do it. I don't think I have that in me. So I'm really trying to find ways to feel authentic in what I'm doing. And for me, it's that connection piece. So actively thinking through how to navigate that. And now that I'm coming back to Canada, my goal is to play concerts that actively sink into that feeling and collaborate with people, write songs with people. Like, I just want, for me, I hope the music connects with more people. And I think the reapproach has been good in that sense. Like, the first song is doing better and like performatively, you know? So I just hope things resonate in a way that I can continue to keep an authentic distance from the outcome and be more grounded in the process.
I love that. And
yeah.
So where can they find you? Like Spotify?
Yeah, I mean, Spotify app, any streaming service under the sun, Joe Mcleod, you'll find me. Website is Joe Mcleod Music, Instagram handles and all that, same thing. I'm being a content demon right now, let me tell you. Like, I went through years of not really posting much because it felt inauthentic. And I've now found a system that works for me where I post almost every single day, at least a reel or a video or something. So if you follow me, there's things coming out. It's not a ghost page, you know, like there's things there. And music is going to be rolling out in 2026, starting February 27th, and then most likely every 6 to 8 weeks after that for the next calendar year. So there's a lot in the pipeline. So hopefully people can tune in.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Joe. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to chat to you when you're back in Canada.